the WNBA seems to be struggling to maintain interest. Now, this Caitlin Clark injury, it was the final ingredient for the perfect storm. This injury gave the WNBA the data they need to prove that pretend basketball is 100% reliant on one player.
The WNBA is facing a crisis. After months of record-breaking ratings, packed arenas, and massive media buzz, things have suddenly taken a dark turn. Why? Because Caitlin Clark, the league's biggest star and ratings machine, isn't on the floor. And without her, the WNBA's numbers are crashing in a way that's leaving executives, coaches, and even players in a state of panic. So today we're diving deep into the numbers, the reactions, and the very real question. Can the WNBA survive without Caitlin Clark carrying the league? The Caitlin Clark effect. From the moment Caitlin Clark was drafted by the Indiana Fever as the #1 overall pick, the WNBA changed overnight. Before Clark arrived, the league was averaging small viewership, with many games drawing less than 300,000 viewers on national TV. Arena attendance was respectable in some cities, but embarrassingly low in others. Then came Caitlin Clark, and everything flipped. The Fever went from struggling to sell tickets to selling out entire arenas. National broadcasts featuring Clark drew millions of viewers. Merchandise sales skyrocketed, with Clark jerseys outselling even established stars in the NBA. She wasn't just a player, she was a cultural phenomenon. From her college dominance at Iowa to her instant impact in the pros, Caitlin became must-watch TV. But now, with Clark sidelined and unable to carry the spotlight, we're seeing what happens when the WNBA doesn't have its superstar at the center of the narrative. Ratings without Clark. Here's where things get shocking. Games featuring Caitlin Clark have consistently been the highest rated of the WNBA season. Some matchups even doubled or tripled the viewership of other games. But the moment Clark isn't playing, those numbers fall off a cliff. According to recent reports, Fever games without Clark draw significantly lower ratings. Nationally televised games featuring other teams often struggle to break through to mainstream audiences. Even Angel Reese, Clark's biggest rival and a rising star in her own right, hasn't been able to keep numbers anywhere close to Clark's influence. This creates a dangerous dynamic for the WNBA. Their entire ratings strategy has become dependent on one player. And when that one player is unavailable, injured, or just not playing in prime time, the entire league feels the hit. The pressure on WNBA leadership. This is where the panic sets in. NBA Commissioner Kathy Engelbert has been praising Clark's arrival as a turning point for the league. And she's right. Caitlin brought in sponsors, boosted attendance, and gave the WNBA more headlines than it's had in decades. But the problem is that it exposed how fragile the league's success really is. Without Clark, sponsors could question whether they're getting their money's worth. Networks like ESPN, ABC, and CBS might hesitate to give the WNBA more airtime. Teams that don't have Clark on the court are suddenly playing in front of half-empty arenas again. In short, the WNBA is learning the hard way that it's built too much around one superstar. Fan reactions. Fans are noticing too. On social media, comments are exploding whenever Clark isn't playing. Many fans say they tune in only for her. Others admit they're just not as interested when she's not in the spotlight. Tweets and posts like, "If Clark isn't on the floor, why should I watch?" The WNBA doesn't realize Caitlin Clark is the league right now. These games are boring without her. It's brutal honesty, but it reflects the reality that the WNBA is still struggling to capture mainstream interest outside of Clark's orbit. The Angel Reese factor. Now let's talk about Angel Reese. Reese has been positioned as the WNBA's second biggest draw, partly because of her college rivalry with Clark. Their games against each other always spike ratings and fan engagement. But here's the catch. When Angel Reese plays without Caitlin Clark involved, the numbers aren't anywhere near the same level. This shows that while Reese is popular, much of her attention is tied to her connection with Clark. Without that rivalry, the buzz isn't the same. It's a reminder that Caitlin Clark is the centerpiece, and everyone else benefits by association. Historical context. The WNBA's struggle with stars. This isn't the first time the WNBA has leaned heavily on a single star. Back in the late 1990s, it was Lisa Leslie and Cheryl Swoops who carried the league's visibility. Then came Diana Taurasi, Sue Bird, and Maya Moore, stars who defined eras. More recently, Brianna Stewart and Aja Wilson have been the dominant names, but none of them, even combined, brought the cultural impact Caitlin Clark has. And here's the scary part. If the WNBA doesn't learn from history and diversify its star power, it risks repeating the same cycle. Short bursts of interest followed by long stretches of irrelevance. What this means for players. Inside the league, this dynamic creates tension. Some players reportedly feel overshadowed by Clark. They've expressed frustration at the media for focusing too much on her while ignoring other stars. But now that Clark is sidelined, they're realizing just how much she means to the league's bottom line. In other words, Clark might dominate the spotlight. But without her, everyone else suffers financially. The business fallout. Let's talk money. Without Clark, ticket sales dip, concession revenue shrinks, merch sales slow down. Sponsors and networks notice these trends immediately. And when they do, they start asking tough questions. Is this league really worth the investment without Caitlin Clark? That's the nightmare scenario for the WNBA. Losing momentum with advertisers and networks, just as they were gaining it. Media and celebrity reactions. Even mainstream sports media has picked up on this. Pundits like Stephen A. Smith and Skip Bayless have commented that Caitlin Clark is carrying the league. Some analysts have even suggested that without her, the WNBA would slip back into obscurity. Celebrities who showed up courtside for Clark games. Many of them aren't showing up as often when she's not playing. That star-studded buzz fades quickly without her presence. What can the WNBA do? So what's next? How does the WNBA respond to this crisis? Here are a few ideas being floated. Promote rivalries. Lean harder into Caitlin versus Angel Reese, Clark versus Aja Wilson, or Clark versus Sabrina Ionescu. Rivalries sell tickets and draw viewers. Market other stars. Give more spotlight to young talents like Cameron Brink, Haley Jones, and Ryan Howard. Build a foundation that doesn't depend entirely on Clark. Expand media access. Encourage more documentaries, behind-the-scenes shows, and storytelling around all players. International growth. Push the WNBA into new markets where Clark's appeal can spark global interest, but where other stars can also shine. Invest in teams, not just individuals. Market the Chicago Sky, Las Vegas Aces, and New York Liberty as brands people can root for, not just Clark. If the WNBA doesn't adapt, it risks burning out its biggest star and alienating the rest of the league. What's next for Caitlin Clark? On one hand, she's the face of the WNBA and the reason it's breaking records. On the other hand, the weight of carrying the entire league could take a toll, mentally, physically, and professionally. If Clark is out long-term, it's not just a problem for Indiana, it's a problem for the entire WNBA. The bigger picture. At the end of the day, this situation highlights the WNBA's biggest challenge, sustainability. One star can spark interest, but if the league doesn't build depth, that spark will fade. The panic over ratings without Caitlin Clark is a wake-up call. The WNBA must learn how to market all its stars and create long-term value, or risk losing everything it has gained. So here's the big question. Is the WNBA too dependent on Caitlin Clark? Or is this just the beginning of a new golden era, where other stars will rise alongside her? I want to hear from you. Drop your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this deep dive, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel for more sports breakdowns. Share this with a friend who follows women's basketball. Because the story of Caitlin Clark and the WNBA, it's only just getting started.